It's Monday, February 28th. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, model rockets.
Let's do this.
So, Scott, you have some criticism of the way I introduced the show?
Yes, I do.
What is your criticism?
You did not make any jokes about rockets or pockets.
So you're going to pull a Luke.
or space being cold.
You're going to pull a Luke. You're going to pull the, I could have made a joke about blah, as opposed to actually making the joke about blah.
No, that's not what I said at all. I said we should have joked. We had a joke opportunity we did not use.
Through the magic of podcasting and radio and Adobe Audition, we could just re-record the opening and you could make your joke.
I want to go home.
That 10 seconds.
That's a long time.
So how come you've been kind of managing servers at work lately?
What do you mean?
This whole Amazon thing. Like, it seems like you're doing a lot of IT work lately.
No, the guy, it's not really that much IT work. I mean, Amazon does all the actual IT work. But it's basically, there was policy that the IT guy had to do all that stuff, and I'm the only Unix person there, so, he wasn't doing it quite right. So now they finally let me do it because, we got bought, and so the policy goes away and whatever. So now it's like, aha, I will do this properly.
Huh. I just found it funny because I'm kind of being pushed in the opposite direction, and I'm getting sent for a lot of training, and they basically want me to be a computer scientist and start working on the source code.
I guess they don't have enough computer scientists.
It's a complicated situation, but basically issues get complex to the point that when we need to troubleshoot them, I really need to see the source code or I can't troubleshoot.
This is why the Sarbanes-Oxley policy of developers can't be IT and IT can't be developers is retarded, because it's not about code and, software and hardware. It's about systems, and the whole thing is an integrated system. Everything goes together. You can't be separating this stuff out. One person has, every person involved has to be able to get the whole picture in their brain, from the chips all the way to the electricity, all the way to the user.
Not every person involved. The back office doesn't need to know about the code. They just know what works, and if it doesn't work the way they expect, then someone like me has to fix it.
Well, I mean, but all the tech people, if you're a tech person
you
who only
did not
understands...
say all the tech people. You said all the people.
Yeah, the janitor needs to know. Yeah, okay, no, the tech, if a tech person only understands one part of the system, right, they're inevitably going to fail and fuck up in some way because they will not have accounted for some other part of the system
not necessarily
they knew not about.
A well-managed project. I mean, you can have, like, the people who write the stuff that consume the market data, for example, just to use examples from my industry. They really only need to worry about an input stream and an output stream, and then there's the contract between, them sending the data out after they've processed it and all the people internally who will subscribe to it and use it. As long as both ends follow the contract, then neither end needs to know jack shit about what the rest of them are doing.
This is true, however...
But there has to be at least one person who knows how the whole thing works.
Here's the thing, right? So now you've got two groups, right? The group that's doing the data, whatever, and the group on the other side of that, right?
You have the third group, the glue group, the project manager / software engineer.
So now you every time you split up something like that, you add bureaucracy and documentation and management that now also cannot fail.
Yes.
Right? If you have just a group that handles everything, then it might become unwieldy as the system becomes too large. But if you subdivide the labor, now you have to add meta labor every time you subdivide.
I would argue that there are projects that are large enough to where if you do not subdivide, it is basically impossible to actually do them well.
Obviously. But
I mean, I'm in a position where it's an industry where no one person could do any of this, let alone all of it.
Of course. I mean, that's just obvious, right? I mean, like, at Microsoft, every person at Microsoft is going to know all of Office and all of Windows, and right? That's retarded.
Well, I guess it's like for you, the way, for your job, the stuff you need to do on a daily basis, you could do it all, but for the fact that there might not be enough hours you care to work.
Yeah. I mean, at my work, there are 5 tech people, total.
Yeah,
right?
my work is almost entirely tech people.
And in terms, the work that I actually do work, right, there's only 3 of us, and we're trying to get more people, so there's really only 3 people. So we do not need meta work. We need less meta work so we can do more work.
I think, the reason I brought all this up is I was thinking about the problems I'm facing in my company and the problems that you deal with and the problems other tech people we know deal with. And I feel like every company that's small is not doing enough subdivision, and every company that's big is doing too much subdivision. And nobody has figured out the right balance, except Google, maybe.
Here's the right balance, right? Is pretty much you want to do the most work with the least employees. That's how you do the math. So you say, okay, if we, right now we've got the system, and really none of these people that I have on the team completely understand the whole system. They're specializing, right? Which means we probably need a subdivision. And so if we subdivide, then, these people who are maybe spending, 20, there's 4 guys on the team, and they're spending like a quarter of the day in meetings because they got to talk stuff over with each other because they don't know the whole thing individually. So we can add one more person, and then these people won't need to have those meetings anymore, and we'll break even, right? So then you're all, but if you have to add 3 people to do the management, then it's not a good deal. It's, bad move.
Well, you got to do it like Raid. Is for every 1 stripe of parity, you lose 1 disc.
Exactly. So you got to maximize your storage space.
Of course, one problem with the philosophy of minimizing the number of employees, if that's your only metric, that's good, except you have now increased the truck factor. That's like a Raid 0 of people.
Well, I mean, you should never have, a truck.
Yeah, but
problem.
minimizing employees, I mean, really.
That's not that's a necessary employees. You need to have any individual thing needs to be known by at least 2 people.
Maybe more, though. I mean, we've had problems where it's a small company, only 2 people know, and
well, I mean, if it's a really small company, the company itself is in a truck anyway. So
True.
You're basically, everyone is working their asses off to get the company off the truck.
Think about a weird unintended consequence. Say you have double redundancy. You have 2 people who are escalation contacts. Like, they're experts at everything. Like, there are 2 people for everything. If one of any of those pairs quits at any point, the second person now has infinite power to demand whatever they want or quit.
This is why you hire someone really soon.
Yeah, but at the same time, even if you hire someone soon, it takes a while to train. And during that time, you've got a dictator just waiting, just ready.
When does that ever happen?
I've considered doing it at times in my life.
I've never seen anyone actually do it. There's all these stories people tell, like, oh, obfuscate the code and you'll have job security. Or, oh, if you are the only one who knows something, hold your company hostage and demand a raise.
You know why I think we have those stories? I don't think anyone ever actually says, I'm going to do this. Though there was that Slashdot article like a week ago about a guy who did that for a bunch of arcade games.
I was going to say, the guy who did the whack-a-mole. And you know what? They totally got caught.
Well, I think someone on Slashdot said that we are very lucky that very few people in the world have 3 factors together that are 1, good at software engineering, 2, also good at social engineering, and 3, not evil. Or evil.
Yeah, it doesn't happen too often.
Yeah, but I think what happens is smart people find poor code or a bad situation tech-wise, and they look at it and they think, there's no way someone's that stupid. It had to have been someone who's really clever trying to keep their job.
Yeah, no, it doesn't happen.
So it's Monday. There's a ton of tech news. I don't think we need to talk about Libya. I think it's obvious the internet's starting to come back online bit by bit in all the free areas. And
go internet, go.
I think the nerds are winning in at least 2 of these countries.
All right, that's good. Go internet.
So you got any tech news?
Yeah, so Apple announced this Thunderbolt today, or not today, a while ago, last week, something, a few days ago, right?
Yeah.
And it's a new connector that goes on the new MacBooks, right? And
what does it replace?
Well, it's actually kind of interesting, right? In that it replaces, I guess, it doesn't replace USB. I mean, at least not yet, because the laptop still has 2 USBs.
Firewire.
And it doesn't replace FireWire, because the laptop still has a FireWire on it. At least.
Yeah, well, when I got when I got PCI, there were still ISAs in my computers.
Right. So they're hoping to, get, to beat out USB and also FireWire and hopefully move everything to Thunder. That's their goal, right?
I don't think that'll happen.
No. What I think is interesting though is that they managed to because Steve Jobs hates more connectors, right? He wants less. So even though he might be dead soon, which is weird, he wants less connectors in the side of the laptop. So what he did is he said, aha, the Thunderbolt will simultaneously not only be a new really fast data port, but it will also be the video out port. And it's the same shape as the the display adapters. So if you have one of those, the newest MacBooks, at least the second newest now, because there's newer ones, right? Or even the third newest, I think, is the same connector. And you have the thing that, so it's basically the mini display port. It's the same shape. So if you want to hook up to a projector, you connect it to the Thunderbolt port, the same port that you would have connected, before. Right? So it's a port that can go theoretically up to 10 gigabits per second. which is twice as fast as the theoretical maximum of USB 3 and is 3 point something times as fast as the theoretical maximum of ESATA. So it is the fastest, theoretically.
Yeah.
It can do video output, so connecting to the projector, and it can also do just data. And it can also daisy chain. So if they get their wish, and this is the only connector on the laptops of the future, or at least the MacBooks of the future, they'll decrease. They won't have any USBs or FireWires. It'll just be power, Ethernets, the Thunderbolt, right, which will do your video out and your data out, and your headphone hole, your microphone hole, and maybe your SD card hole, right? And those will be the only holes. They'll lose 3 holes.
See, the thing is, with
4
stuff
holes
like
they'll
this, the
lose.
killer app would be, it would have to be able to have adapters on it to where you could plug in FireWire and USB devices, because the amount of legacy equipment isn't just, like, in many cases, I always say, yeah, fuck the legacy equipment when we're trying to move to some modern technology. But there is just way too much legacy equipment. I mean, I just bought a brand new HD camera. What's it got? USB.
Yeah. So here's the thing, right? Is first of all, in terms of cameras and like how, he's mostly aiming this because this was simultaneous with the release of a new Final Cut. I think there was a new Final Cut. So this is aimed at the video people, right? They want you to get the ultra high res videos onto your Mac, and they also want the ultra high res videos to go onto like a RAID, and you could work so fast with that RAID if you have 10 gigabits per second.
But
right?
I have a NAS.
That's 10 times gigabit Ethernet.
Yeah, but I have a NAS that stores my video library, and hard drives are cheap. I have a local disk that just has everything on it that's fast enough.
Okay, so how fast? Your local disk is SATA,
Yeah.
right? Which is 3. This is 10.
All right, so this is 10. How long before the next standard of, whatever SATA drives?
What if you're working with high resolution from a video from like a Red camera, right? This is actually going to be significant for you.
Well,
for a
the thing
normal
is,
person,
it's
going to
be significant only in the short term, because that sort of external connector, when there's so many different things that need to connect to it, cannot evolve as quickly as something like an internal hard drive connector, where the industry has been very, very successful at saying, fuck it, here's the new one, over and over again at a very short cycle.
Yeah.
USB, look how long it took to get USB 2, USB 3. Thunderbolt will not be able to advance, I don't think, in the long run.
Well, USB 3 isn't even out yet.
I know.
And it's only theoretically 5 gigabits per second.
That's
so
what I'm saying. I don't think that anything external like this, if it is the connector to rule them all, is going to be able to keep up with just the advancement of internal proprietary things. Plus, if you're doing stuff with Red, Scott, if you're doing stuff with Red, like for real, if I was doing real video editing, I'd have some iSCSI or some Fiber Channel.
How fast is that theoretically?
Fucking fast. That is what we use for like multi-terabyte real-time databases.
Let's go look at how fast Fiber Channel is, theoretically speaking.
The other question is, how fast are the disks? I mean, disks often can't even drive network bandwidth in some cases.
Yeah, well, you're never going to... These are theoretical maximums, right? So, but the point is that there definitely is a bottleneck in this transfer department for... people working with high-res videos especially, right? These people are like, oh, I got to wait so long to, transfer my videos. Anyway, so I think it'll be interesting if they actually push this to, say, like iPods and stuff like that. If the iPhone just has one of these and they get rid of the dock connector or something like that.
You know what this really means? It's going to be a fucking pain in the ass to run panels at conventions.
Well, no, it might. If everyone will have the same stupid little video adapter,
then we'll buy the little adapter for it to VGA,
and you'll connect. Yeah, exactly. And it's the same adapter they already sell, right? So I have one at work, and so basically you could attach it if they put it on the iPhone or whatever. You could attach it directly to your iPhone to VGA instead of using the weird dock connector to RCA thing that we have now. Anyway, so it is sort of interesting in those departments. However, I think it is still kind of I'm bleh on it, even though it is ridiculously fast.
Oh. For a reason other than the ones we've already talked about?
Yeah, and this is the thing I don't understand, right? It's like, why are they so in love with these external connectors, right? It's like he wants to reduce the number of ports on the side of the laptop to make it more beautiful, and I can understand that, right? That you definitely things look better when there's less holes in them, right? It's obvious. But how is it less ugly?
I could have made a joke there about less holes.
Right, but how is it less ugly, right, to have a huge stack of daisy-chained external devices because you can't modify any internal parts of the computer?
Yeah, that's the one thing about my PC is that inside is an ugly mess of cables. You know what's connected to those cables? Like 6 terabytes worth of storage.
Right, so it's like if they would they only make one computer that lets you put anything inside, the Mac Pro, which is ridiculous, And I can understand you don't put anything in a laptop, duh, right? But it's like, if you want to make it more beautiful, right, you should maybe make the iMac, right, allow people to put stuff in it. Make the iMac more like, something small that you can open.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe at least I feel like this standard won't
And
be,
then you won't have a nasty, ugly mess of external piles of crap with wires all over your desk.
I don't think it'll matter in the long run. I mean, I agree with you there, but I just think this is going to be like FireWire in that it could replace FireWire in the long run.
I think
That's
it
my
will. I
guess.
think that's what it will be. It will be like FireWire, and there'll be a lot of Mac-specific things for it, and there will be lots of the high-end video people
and audio, because the thing is, I had never had use for FireWire in my entire life until I started doing audio for real.
I mean, these are on the MacBook Pro, right? They're not on the MacBook. At least I don't think they are.
Well, the thing is, because FireWire, the advantage over USB is that it's higher bandwidth. I can actually have, 8 streams of real quality audio going into my computer into 8 channels.
And they haven't removed the USB yet. So this is this is a thing for the pro video type people who are all about Macs. And they will love it, and it will hopefully, replace FireWire.
I think it'll absolutely replace FireWire if it works.
Yeah, except for those people are still going to demand FireWire for a couple of years.
Well, the thing is, I haven't looked at the spec. I mean, I assume it does all the kind of low latency, synchronized time things that FireWire does.
It's actually kind of ridiculous because it's bi-directional, so you can actually get 10 gigabits both ways. Right? And because you can daisy chain it, you could, for example, load video from a camera, so that's one direction at 10 gigabits per second, and also save it to a disk in the daisy chain at 10 gigabits per second, theoretically, right? At the same time, simultaneously, right? So that's
I just had a
good.
flashback to the old days of daisy chaining SCSI devices together and having that little Terminator cap at the end.
Yeah. I mean, technology-wise, there's nothing really wrong with it. It's faster than everything else on paper. And you can use it for, video, like just plug a monitor into it because it is just a video output and also data. So that's pretty nice. But it's just going to replace, it's for the pros. I don't think anyone is going to use it for normal everyday
what else
stuff.
would have made it work? If it were a replacement for HDMI.
I think, you can do that.
No, but I mean straight up, and TVs supported it with no DRM.
Yeah, you just need it. You can, if you get if you buy a Mac monitor, you can just plug the monitor directly into it.
But if I buy a Sony TV, they're not going to have in and outputs on the TV for this anytime soon.
Well, I think that's Apple's one problem, right? Is every time they come, there are certain things Apple does openly and certain things they do closedly, right? And their ports have always been something they do openly. They, the mini display port, which is the same shape as this, they put out the specs. They're like, people, please make things using mini display port, right? Yep. They made it an open standard. They wanted people to do it, but no one did. They really need to stop being, non-communicative assholes, and they need to go out to the companies they hate, right, and be like, look, Sony, make TVs with this hole in it. Hey, Dell, make laptops with this hole in it. Let's all make laptops and TVs and displays and drives.
How do you know they don't? How do you know there aren't all these NDA conversations all the time? Like, hey, we're doing this, and maybe Dell says, fuck you. I mean, we have no idea.
It could possibly be that the other companies say, fuck you. But
I don't think Apple is run stupidly. I don't think they would do something stupid unless they didn't want it to actually be the end all. And I don't think that's the case either.
I think they should, they're really, whoever's saying no to it, right? Whether it's Thunderbolt or something else, right? It could be not invented here syndrome on the part of the other guys, right? Being like, oh, we don't want to use Thunderbolt. It's an Apple thing. Then Apple will have power.
I mean, it could be we're already working on USB 4 or something internally.
Yeah, they should everybody, including Apple, needs to get together. And what really we need, all of these ports, every single one of them.
We can't even convince them to agree on a power standard.
Actually, the cell phone guys are getting pretty close.
Yeah, they're close. But how long did it take?
Forever.
Yeah.
Right? Because they all wanted to sell their AC adapters. They make a lot of money on that.
Yeah, I remember
How
having
would
to
you
buy
tell the shareholders that you're going to standardize so that you're going to lose all your revenue from AC adapters? Not going to fly. Anyway, really all these ports, USB, FireWire, everything is just serial data transfer. That's all it is. And we really need one wire for serial data transfer, right? And we just need to crank the fuck up, and just put it out. And I think the reason that Apple was able to come out with this is because, like, USB, for example, USB 3 is slow because it is a working group. All these guys get together and argue until they finally agree on what it should be. Whereas Apple just says, here's what it should be, and here's the spec, everyone can look at it, right? Which allows, because they don't have to argue with anyone, they just do what they want. They're able to just come out with it and have it be finalized immediately. But then who else is going to adapt it if they, they have complaints with it? So they're like, well, that's Apple did things the way they wanted to, and if they were arguing with us in a consortium, we wouldn't have agreed, and we wouldn't have done, so we're not going to put that in our computer because it doesn't do X, Y, and Z, which we would have argued for and are arguing for. So that all that sort of, what's it called? All those concessions and compromises.
The thing that we hate above all other things.
Yes, that's what slows one down, But at the same time, without the compromise, it's an Apple-only thing. I don't know.
Yeah, well, then you get into the Constantine situation that we always talk about on Friday Night Party Line, which may be coming back.
Okay.
So very briefly, I don't want to talk about this a lot, but there's an article on Slashdot, and it was from Business and Law, about how Craigslist is, and there was a group that was studying this, a, quote, cesspool of crime.
I wouldn't say it's a cesspool. It's more of a...
The only cesspool...
It's more of a bog.
I mean, you want a cesspool? YouTube comments. That is a cesspool.
It's not really a cesspool
that's
either.
That's a cesspool.
That's more of a cesspit.
Or, all right, fine, cesspool. Let's look at the comments on any local newspaper in America.
Well, those aren't cess at all. The problem is it's more, those are more...
I believe it's all cess.
No, those are like a latrine. They've been cleaned thoroughly. And it's stupid. I don't understand why the newspapers do this. They leave the comments there, but all the comments say comment removed. Don't put the words comment removed, just completely remove it so no one even knows the comment was ever there.
I realize it'd be simple enough to remove most of the stuff that happens on every local newspaper site. Just filter out basic swear words and racial slurs. That'll cover about 90% of it.
And spelling.
Every possible spelling of every racial slur.
If anyone has bad spelling, just don't let their post go through.
Yeah. We need that cat-like, stupid-like detecting or system. Anyway, Craigslist is kind of a cesspool, in my opinion, partly because it is used by the masses. Like, everybody except the oldest of the old and the disconnected of the disconnected knows that if you want to get rid of a busted old refrigerator, you put it on Craigslist and someone will come take it, maybe.
Yep.
And if you want to have sex with a stranger, Craigslist is where you go.
Yep.
You want to buy a crack pipe, you want to complain about crack pipes, Craigslist is where you go.
Yep.
It is democratized. It's so simple. It's so dumb. It looks like it's out of 1992.
It is.
So everyone can use it. And as a result, there's a lot of crap on there. And smart people don't fall for the crap because they're not stupid.
Craigslist also has many warnings. It tells you how not to fall for crap. They give you, they're like, hey, if somebody doesn't say where they are,
if a dude
or they're
says
not
he'll
local,
meet you at 11:30 at night behind the Walmart to pick up your free HD TV, yeah, you're going to get raped.
Yeah.
But I want to point something out. This study, I was reading the article and I was thinking about this, and I had a lot to say about society and culture and technology. And then I noticed who did this study. This study
the
saying
Yellow
that
Pages?
Craigslist sucks and is a bastion of crime.
A newspaper classified organization?
It is done by the AIM Group. Are you familiar with the AIM Group? AIM.
Are you talking about AIM from Marvel Comics?
What?
You don't know AIM from Marvel Comics?
No. Quote,
sure?
Consulting services for interactive media and classified advertising. So the people who organize the people who sell ads in out-of-date ad-selling media like newspapers are trying to say that Craigslist is a den of iniquity.
But yeah, AIM in Marvel Comics is advanced idea mechanics, and it's sort of just generic terrorist bad guys.
Not that bad of a name, though.
Yeah. It was originally known, apparently according to Wikipedia, I didn't know this, it was originally known as Them, and first mentioned in Strange Tales 142.
What does them stand for?
It stands, it's the word them.
Really?
Yeah.
It could have been an acronym.
Yeah, no, but AIM is advanced idea mechanics. They're just generic. They're sort of like the Foot Clan, right? It's just generic. It's like we need some bad guys in this comic, but we don't have any specific villain we want to use, right? Because that would mean plots. So we had to just have generic bad guys, terrorists of some sort to fight, because we're focusing on some heroes' internal drama and they need to fight something. So here we go. Just some AIM agents are doing some terrorism. There we go. Whatever.
So things of the day. I think this is pretty cool. So a lot of people don't realize that air rifles have existed since the 1500s, give or take.
Wait. How could there be an air rifle in the 1500s if they didn't have compressors?
They did have compressors.
Oh, okay, that's fine then.
So basically, these air rifles, and later 16, 17, even up through the 1800s, they were used by militaries,
What?
especially in Austria.
You're shooting
Because
people with BBs?
you realize if you take basically a musket and make it air powered and have like a metal canister that'll hold a lot of air in it compressed, it'll kill a guy at a surprising range.
Well, it's shooting what, a musket ball?
Yes, a
Eh.
rifled musket ball. What do you mean, There's science. I watched videos of them shooting it through inch-thick pieces of wood from quite a distance.
Yeah, I mean, that'll kill a guy, but the thing is, even actual muskets, weren't as good at killing people as guns with actual bullets because, they're balls, they're not bullets.
You realize we invented rifling a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
These are rifled air rifles.
Oh, they're not just
Yes.
It's not just a musket ball going down a tube.
Yes, and even
It just does the front of it doesn't look like a trumpet.
Scott, there was even a time when you could shoot musket balls that would take advantage of rifling to a degree
Really?
because they'd conform to the edges, and there was this famous.
But it has to be point in the front.
No, it doesn't. That's not why. Anyway, so there's this one particular air rifle that was used by the Austrian military, and they had a lot of advantages. For example, if you had a squad that had these rifles, they could shoot like 20 times before they had to be recharged.
Oh yeah, because you wouldn't have to keep pulling the thing back.
And they had
but with
autoloaders.
the
They'd hold all
fire
the
and
ammo in them. So basically, you could shoot like 20 rounds, like bam, 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 bam.
Well, but didn't you? I mean, the thing is, didn't you have to pump it to squeeze
No,
the
you shoot
air?
20 or so, and then you have to pump it. Yeah. So
How hard was it to pump? Was it all like you had to oil it really good?
you
so
had to
that-
pump it 1,500 times to reload it.
Okay.
With the-
Wait, is that really how many?
Yes.
What?
Yes. So what they do is they carry like 3 canisters of compressed air.
So wait, but someone did the original 1,500 pumpings times 3 canisters.
Yes.
Who's doing these pumpings?
Bored soldiers at
Why
night
don't they do it with a
because they had cars in the 1500s
Oh, what do you mean cars? No,
with engines.
no, they didn't.
Yeah, exactly. How else are they going to do it?
At the lumber mill, you can have the sawmill or the.
All right, so I'm on the road. Now what? I shot 22 guys 3 times.
No, but you can load up so many of them and fill your.
They're
wagon.
heavy. They're made of iron.
You put them in the wagon.
Yeah, and soldiers got to get anyway.
And the oxen pull it.
That's not the point. So the point of this is that apparently Lewis and Clark brought one of these particular ones, the Giordoni, with them on their famous adventure. And this one rifle that they brought that was an air rifle is actually credited with them surviving the expedition. Single-handedly.
Did it get wet and they had to shoot something?
No. So someone
Because
pointed
that
out,
would be a major advantage, right? Is that if an old-fashioned musket gets wet, you might as well just throw it out.
that
right?
is one advantage. Another
But if
advantage,
this thing gets wet, it'll probably fire sometime.
Another advantage is that if you designed these to be subsonic, to where the projectiles coming out don't break the sound barrier, they don't have much of a muzzle report.
That's true. If you even get a modern-day BB gun, it's basically silenced, even
Yeah.
without a silencer on it. It goes like, beep.
So there are many advantages, but Lewis and Clark's expedition had a lot of people with it, a lot of supplies, a lot of very valuable materials,
Yep.
and a lot of weapons, a lot of muskets and powder.
But
and all
apparently
that stuff.
only one air rifle.
Yeah, and the air rifle is what saved them. So it is argued, and this video goes into a lot more detail, that basically while they were traveling, any one of the Indian tribes along their multi-year expedition could have trivially overpowered them and all their firepower.
Duh.
Had any of the tribes done that, Lewis and Clark had with them enough musket balls and powder and rifles and provisions to where that tribe could have basically subjugated every other tribe in the area.
Oh, that's clever.
And the question was, how did they travel so far without even one Indian tribe thinking we could totally take these fuckers out?
Hiding.
They didn't hide. They traveled openly. In
Oh, if
fact,
they're using the air rifle, the Indian tribes wouldn't have heard them. So
they
as long
only
as
had
they-
one, and they weren't just killing all the people as they marched.
No, I mean, if they were hunting using only the air rifle,
No.
the Indians only would have been able to find them by
Nope.
sight, and as
No,
if they
no,
stayed
no.
hidden
So, do
visually.
you want me to spoil it? You want to watch the video?
You can spoil it. I'm not
So
gonna
what they
watch it.
did is they carried dress uniforms with them. And every time they knew an Indian tribe was like up the river or something, they were dressed in full regalia, and they'd play the fifes and they'd bang the drums, and they'd just march right into the Indian city.
Mm.
And they'd march in and they'd give them gifts. Like, here's some cloth, here's some stuff, we're nice. And then what they would do is take the air rifle out and demonstrate it. Now, these Indians knew about rifles and muskets, but they didn't know about air rifles. So he'd basically stand there and go, pa, 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 just destroying a whole bunch of stuff in a demonstration. And basically, as far as the Indians were concerned, this rifle had infinite ammo and could shoot forever with almost no sound and kill everybody.
Hmm.
And they used this and credited it as the reason why the Indians left them alone, because they were afraid of these weapons. They thought that they had a ton of these things when really they just had one.
Uh-huh.
It's a neat bit of history, and that's all I got to say.
So sorry, someone actually has that exact rifle?
No.
Not like a copy of it, but that particular one?
No, they have the
one?
exact same model, but it isn't the one that Lewis and Clark had.
No one has the one.
No, but it's the same model, pretty much.
Uh-huh. Then how do we actually know they had one if we don't have the one?
Because they wrote about it.
Uh-huh.
In fact, every time they mention it, they also talk about how they scared some Indian tribe or other with it.
Uh-huh.
It's neat stuff.
All right. So this is a video, much less involved, right? It is the first performance ever of the hit song "Smack My Bitch Up" in 19.
Smack My Bitch Up.
You don't know this song?
I don't know that song.
That's a famous song. Anyway, is the first performance of it ever
Who did it?
in 1965? That's a good question.
All right, I don't know. Who sang the song in 1965?
Oh, in 1965?
Yeah.
Someone else other than who actually sang it. That is the joke of the video.
All right. Are you gonna let on, or are we just gonna leave it be?
It's really not that complex a joke, so there's really, if I say it, there's no reason to watch the video.
Okay. And of course, the meta moment. We will be not this weekend, but next weekend at the Penny Arcade Expo, Bitch Packs.
In East
March
Boston.
11th, 12th, and 13th. We will be doing 5 panels in 3-panel rooms.
Oh shit!
Yep, Friday night and then 2 on Sunday.
All right.
And also the weekend immediately after that, March 19th and 20th. We won't be there on the 18th. Zenkai Con, Anime Con in the Philly area. We will be there doing a bunch of panels. I gotta look up what.
When are we supposed to do laundry?
And then write those panels. I took the day before we leave for PAX off to do all my stuff. And of course, announcing this for people who didn't catch it, it's a ways off, but in April, we will definitely be at the Anime Boston, like we go to every year. We've confirmed it.
Yeah, and
we'll be doing a bunch of panels.
And I think a week or two before Anime Boston, I forget the exact date, is the Museum of Comic and Cartoon Art Festival,
which you should all go to. We will not be guests there. We will be attendees.
And basically, in other words, no sleep till May.
Yeah.
That's what we're gonna. It's no sleep till May.
The book club book, which we're just waiting for Scott to finish reading, is Michio Kaku's Hyperspace.
I'll be reading that pretty soon.
And you should join the Geeknights forum, because a lot of you have been joining lately, and it's pretty fucking rocking in there.
Yep, just
especially if you are a fan of the My Little Ponies.
Maybe.
I have a special entreaty to all of you. Rainbow Dash is clearly the best My Little Pony, but yet of late,
well, the best friendship is magic, My
yes.
Little Pony.
Well, that's the only My Little Pony as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But there's been trouble lately. These Fluttershy fanatics and these Pinkie Pie, I don't have a word for them, are
Pundits.
encroaching.
Yeah.
So if you truly love Rainbow Dash, like all true men do, get into the forum and vote in our Which My Little Pony is the best pony poll.
Every pony vote Rainbow Dash. That's right.
Some model rockets.
Okay.
Something more manly.
Well, I mean, this is sort of we're running out of Monday ideas. So if anyone has Monday ideas, send them on over. But
I have plenty of Monday ideas.
No,
you just don't want to do them.
You don't have shit for Monday ideas.
I got plenty of
you
ideas.
Got nothing. Yeah, all right, let's name one.
Let's talk about advice from me to you, since you're doing more IT and you from me because I'm doing CS.
That's stupid.
How's that stupid?
Because I know everything I need to know.
Yeah. Do you? Do you?
Yes.
How do you set up NTP?
It's already installed. Apt get install NTP. Done.
That actually doesn't configure and it won't work that well.
Does on Ubuntu.
Actually, it connects to shitty time sources if you do that.
It doesn't matter because I don't need the precise time that you need.
How do you know you don't?
Because I know I'm running a web server. I'm not running whatever. Anyway. So we figure, hey, model rockets, that would sort of feel like a Thursday show, but it's science. So we'll make it a Monday show. Take that.
I would argue that it's more engineering.
Yeah, probably.
But I'm going to make a controversial statement right now, and then I'm going to sidestep it and not talk about it again until the end of this episode.
All right, Mr. Controversy.
I was really big into model rocketry as a kid. I went to space camp.
I wasn't big into model rocketry, but I did it. I went to a bunch of summer camp, right? And I also did it once in actual shop class at school. So I've done quite a few of the rockets.
Oh, I owned all the equipment. I had my own launch pads.
Yeah, I didn't actually own any stuff, but I'd done it at many camps over many years.
I had a wide array of different rockets I had built and played with. But my controversial statement is as such. I feel that model rocketry, as it is practiced by the majority of the people in the U.S. who practice it, is not educational in any meaningful way, nor is it in any way a preparation for science or math education.
No, I don't think so either.
I think at best it's an expensive and slightly dangerous toy for most people.
I think it's pretty much the equivalent of Gundam models in terms of a hobby. It's not a bad hobby. It's not harmful, but it is not. At least basic model rocketry, like they have at summer camp or school, is not helping you become a rocket scientist at all.
Or any kind of scientist. But so Scott, how many rockets did you ever launch that you were able to retrieve?
I think all of them.
Really?
Yeah,
I lost about 75% of my rockets.
Well, I mean, did you do like the double stage guys?
I did very large rockets because I grew up in Michigan where the laws were much laxer than they are out here.
I've done them in Pennsylvania. I've done them in New York. I've done them in
What was the
Connecticut.
biggest engine you ever used?
C.
C? Really?
Yep.
C?
Mm.
That's like the baby engine.
The baby engine was A.
No, it was
were.
double A, triple A.
I'd never seen
Yeah.
double A or triple A. It was ABC. No one ever used anything less.
See-
And one guy really wanted to use E, but they didn't let him.
Is E even legal in Connecticut?
I don't know. It wasn't in Connecticut. It was in Pennsylvania.
I've only ever used E engines a few times. I liked them, but I didn't do them on my own. I had help. I did them like in events.
Mm.
But D's were pretty much my go-to engine. So
Yeah.
I'd make these rockets that I was trying to send them into orbit, and I don't know if they got there.
No, I mean, basically.
One time I bought the transponder, and I was waiting. Like I figured,
What a waste of money.
I figured, all right, I'll lose my rocket, then I'll go find it, and I shoot it, and the transponder goes beep beep beep, and I never found it.
Good job. You know what really was annoying? Even sometimes, even if I was able to retrieve the rocket, which is most of the time,
Yeah,
the parachute didn't always work. It worked about 50% of the time.
that means you packed it poorly.
so 50.
Some pony doesn't know how to pack a proper parachute.
So 50% of the time, the parachute wouldn't eject, and what happened was it would basically just go nose cone first into
you're
the
sure
dirt.
you were using the right kind of engines, right? Because you realize like plug engines don't have the ejection charge.
They all had the ejection charge.
Are you sure? Did you put the
Yes.
ejection plug in the top?
Uh,
Did you put wadding in?
yeah, you always did the wadding.
How much wadding?
I don't know.
Did you pack it in real tight?
I don't remember.
Because if you pack it in real tight, it might not blow.
I do. I definitely use the wadding all the time. Anyway.
Did you pack the parachute properly?
Yeah, you tie it up with a rubber band.
No!
No?
God, no. If you tie it up with a rubber band, it's not going to work. How's it going to open?
No, you didn't actually tie the rubber band around the parachute. What you did is you cut the rubber band and you attached the rubber band from the parachute to the nose cone, right? On the inside.
You attach it to the inside of the tube, not to the nose cone. You see,
I think that I'm trying to remember. I think the rubber band goes to all three because the rubber band connects the tube to
I'm
the nose
sorry.
cone to the parachute.
You were an Estes kid. I used Quest components because they were far superior.
Well, actually, right? Most of the time when I built one at like say regular old summer camp or in school, they just bought Estes kits and were just like follow the instructions, kids. But when I went to real nerd summer camp, right? There was no kits involved. They basically had just tubes and nose cones and fins and all these parts everywhere.
So
and
you know what
just
that
built,
means?
You just built whatever you came up with. There was no kit, no instructions. It was just go nuts. But they did force you to build basically what they did is they would ration out the parts, right? So if you went in and were like, I want to build like a 3-stage monstrosity, they'd be like, and they would give you the parts for basically what was known as a wizard, which is basically the smallest possible rocket.
The Wizard is a specific Estes one, isn't it?
Oh, is it? I don't
yeah,
know. They
it's a
call
piece of shit. It's like the basic baby
yeah,
rocket.
they basically gave you the parts for, the smallest baby rocket, and they said, build that, and if you finish it and it works, then we'll let you get what other parts.
It takes less than 2 minutes to make the Wizard.
Well, they forced you to the thing is they forced you to, it was basically it was a barrier to entry, right? So they forced you to paint it properly.
Spray
and all-
paint.
Yeah. They basically forced you to do the job right, and they examined it to make sure that you actually cared
I
and
never
tried
made
hard
my
enough.
rockets look good.
Yeah.
But you realize if you give
They just
kids
wanted it. They didn't have to look good. They just wanted to prove that you were putting in the work. And then if you put the work in and you were serious, then they would let you get more parts
most
to
kids
do
I
something
found,
special.
if you give them that freedom and like you give even simple parts, like let them make a rocket and you don't force them to make a specific design, they will think to themselves that lighter rocket plus bigger engine equals higher. So I knew many kids who would basically glue nose cones and fins to an engine. Let me tell you, that goes about 5 feet up, spins around, and comes straight back at you.
Yeah, it's dangerous. No, but I mean, because of the way they did things, right? The only people who were actually able to make anything cool were people who were like dedicated to it, right? And if anyone is making something with more than a stage, right? They would always like examine to make sure you weren't making something stupid. They'd be like, no, you can't do that. Or the thing was, it wasn't like you just launched when you were done. They had launch day twice at camp, so every 4 weeks. So if you built 3 rockets, you'd get to launch 3 times on launch day, right? But on launch day, you would basically walk up to the launch pad with the rocket as everyone was sitting there, and they would look at it, and they would make a spot judgment, yes or no. And if you made a stupid rocket, they just say no.
So you gotta fudge it. I made rockets that would explode. They'd get up, first stage, second stage, boom!
Yeah, I mean, the most ridiculous, they wouldn't allow that to go. The one thing is...
You gotta hide it in there.
One kid, they knew what you were doing, though, because they observed everybody. It was a little tiny rocket hut. They had a special hut, the rocket hut, and all the rocketing went on in the hut, so they watched you rocketing in the hut. You couldn't rocket outside the hut.
One kid I remember at Starbase filled his with gravel because he thought like he'd get up there and just spread gravel on everybody.
What the fuck?
It didn't even take off. It basically got halfway up the launch pole, like hovered, and then came back down. The parachute went pa, and some gravel went, and like one pebble fell out, and then the kid got sent home.
Anyway, the most ridiculous thing I ever saw though was this guy. He basically made a gigantic rocket, like as tall as a person. It was
I made one like that.
It was like it was a tube that I could put my leg through. It was a giant tube.
What kind of engines did he use? That's like because that was the interesting part of Rocketry for me, was when you made the ones that used multiple engines.
That was the guy.
Stage.
That was the guy who used the E engine, right? So
just one E.
I don't know if it was just one E, but I know there was definitely at least one E involved. There may have been a ring of other engines around it, and I didn't look very closely.
It was difficult to set those off properly. You needed the multi-stagers.
I know. I didn't know it wasn't multi-stage. It was just one big tube with the biggest fins and the biggest cone, and he spray painted actually really nicely, and it sat on the porch in front of his cabin for like as soon as from the time he finished it to the end of camp. And on the last day of camp, or the second to last day before the parents showed up, was the final launch day. And he brought it out there. All the rockets, they put them out on display, and they just grab them one at a time to decide if they're going to launch or not.
Yeah.
And it was sitting out there ready to launch, right? And at one point, they went over and picked it up, and they tried to slide it onto the launch pad, and they all the counselors were like discussing, and they were like, And you could tell the kid, he sort of wanted to do it and he sort of didn't want to do it. He's like, he wanted to for awesome.
Yep.
But he also didn't want to because it probably would not have survived. Right? Or just, and it was all, so in the end, they were like hesitant and then they didn't do it. But it was like, this thing was, it was at least 4 or 5 feet tall, if not 6 feet tall. It was big, real big. And every kid wanted to see it go because it wasn't theirs. Right? And they didn't work on it.
Yep.
But it might have killed someone because we were sitting pretty close. So
I think it would have been fine.
It was pretty dangerous.
But you realize it seems like you were using all the SD stuff because the rubber bandy crap, that's kind of like the hallmark of cheapo SD.
Well,
rockets.
I was never, at the level where they would let me do it because I didn't, I dedicated my time at some other areas of the camp, like the computer area and the archery area and the hockey area. So
Quests would sell more like components, like design a rocket. And the individual components were higher quality, like that have better seals. Or the biggest one is the nose cone would be connected through the tube to the base of the rocket with a Teflon cord or a Kevlar cord.
Yeah, I think, if they had all these, basically, I think they might have had just Quest and SD's parts at the good camp, right? Mostly, all the other camps just bought an SD's kit and handed it to you in the bag still.
Nah.
But at the good camp, right? I think they just had every component imaginable. Like there's tons of them of every shape and size. And they definitely had, the Teflon cord, and they had fancier nose cones, and they had like multi-stage release tubes and they had all sorts of different shapes of fins you could get. And they would even like make parts. Like they would go and buy balsa wood and go to the wood shop and cut out fins. I think that's how the kid got the giant fins for the,
That was the interesting part for me too, is that when you did the more advanced rockets, like I would make fins, you sand them down and paint them, and then it looked terrible because I was bad at that.
Yeah. At least you could. It wasn't too hard to do them all identically with a bandsaw, though. But even if they just all be equally ugly.
Yeah, but then you got to shape them, and it's not so easy. You got to sand them down to where they're like thick at the front, and they come to a point at the bottom, and
yeah. But what you do is you clamp them all together, identically, the whole time, so that they're all going to be the same. No matter
but then you have to sand them down and make the shape.
Yeah, you sand them while they're clamped.
You can't that wouldn't work.
What do you mean?
How are you? It's a fin. There's 2 sides, and it's a 3-dimensional surface. And you have 4 of them. How are you going to sand them all at the same time to be identical?
Well, no, you sand the edges, right, while they're all clamped, and then when you actually want to sand the 2 faces, you have to unclamp it, obviously.
Yeah, but the faces are anyway. You can't just do it like that. But I think my trouble with model rocketry is that, like you said at this camp, they give you a kit, you build it, and it goes. very few children actually get to the point of experimenting and trying to learn from their experiments or trying to actually chart a trajectory or thinking things like, all right, I want to launch a rocket to accomplish X, so I will use an A engine in the first stage with this characteristic. Because remember
Yeah.
all the numbers? Like
That's true. At no point did anyone ever discuss like any sort of math or physics in relation to the model rocketry. At no point did anyone discuss like, any correlation between actually trying to do something. It was pretty much just like a fun activity, like building, like I said, building a Gundam robot. It was like, follow the instructions, make something, and then it's fun when you get to launch it. Yay, it's fun. There was no learning or education in terms of, any sort of rocket science
it
whatsoever.
usually wasn't even engineering because the kit, no matter how shittily you built it, they'd all launch about the same.
It was mostly, right, is the number one priority was pretty much safety, right? Because all these camps and stuff had liability issues in schools, right? And I never knew anyone who did it like on their spare time on their own where they would actually experiment or anything like that. And two, after safety, it was pretty much just like, it was basically the equivalent of arts and crafts. It was like make the rocket, have fun making it. There was no at any point ever any education. It was pretty much all we knew was the bigger letters. And kids would be like, "Man, I'm gonna make a rocket that used the 5Z engine." And then some kids would be like, "Oh, the space shuttle, the white one's on the side are S, and the big red one is," I'd be like, "What? I don't think that it works that way. I don't think that NASA's like, yeah, get the S engines out for the space shuttle."
So how do we make model rocketry a worthwhile endeavor other than just arts and crafts?
Well, I think in the kit, right? Because it's always going to be kits. You're not going to be able to deliver it without kits, right? So
I think you could if you're a counselor at a camp that was willing to let you do it. You basically assemble all the component parts and kind of as a class design rockets.
Yeah, sure. But the thing is, if you're going to deliver it in a wide scale, right, you need to deliver it in kit form, right, to get any sort of traction, and at least for the entry level.
Well, there's two kinds.
And what you need to do is
there's the entry level mass market kit thing.
So you got to start with the entry level.
Yeah, but there's also the focused instruction like Rich Kid Camp.
Right, but you need focused instructors, and there aren't many, so you can't have enough instructors. So what you need to do is in the kit itself. Don't just include the instructions on how to build
Scott,
it.
they all included all the math and science. No one paid attention to it.
Really?
Yeah.
I never saw any math or science
Scott,
in
I had
any
a
instructions.
book from Estes that explained everything you needed to know about making rockets, how to balance them, different fin configurations.
I think then the problem is simple. Let the kids see that goddamn book, because I didn't know that book existed. I never saw it. No one ever showed that book ever.
I don't blame the creators of the mass market products. And while I like Quest better, Quest failed and Estes still is around as far as I can tell.
You just need to show that book to the kids. That's pretty much all it comes down to.
But even then,
or have the person in charge read the book.
Yeah, it's that the instructors at camps and things, even at Space Academy and Space Camp and Starbase and these programs I went to, even if they knew rocketry, they didn't care. And most of them were kind of nerds who actually cared mostly about the appearance. They'd make like the one shaped like an X-wing.
Yeah.
As opposed to the one that teaches a valuable lesson. Like, what if you want to make one that's going to fly up, take a picture at its apex, and then launch the parachute? Having a kid calculate what kinds of engines and what weighting and what delays and what fin configurations and how to aim it in the wind where the apex will be right, that's the interesting stuff, but no one ever presents it in that manner.
Well, there are people who work on model rockets, right, in that manner. But, it's much like you look at RC cars, right? There's people who buy an RC car, Tyco, and there's some people who make one that's gas-powered, right? Or there's some people who make a model airplane, like the helicopter from Radio Shack, and there's some people who make a model airplane for reals, right? So model rocketry is the same way. Most people are doing these kits at summer camp, but then you got like John Carmack, who's making rockets that are metal and have rocket fuel in them. And so there are I guess there are some kids into the serious model rocketry also, but there are serious model rocketry hobbyists that do exist.
Yep.
And they actually are really doing model rocketry for reals. It's just that's not being exposed to children or anyone else on a wide scale. It's very a much smaller hobby than RC cars.
I also
or RC
worry
planes.
that the hobby is getting even smaller. I feel like liability concerns are taking it out of schools. I feel like just like New York has kind of restrictive laws on different levels of engines and everything. And it's a hobby that I think is going to largely disappear from the anything that children have access to. independent of the problems that the hobby has, I feel like it's going to go away.
I don't know if it'll go away completely.
Not
but
completely. It'll still be at summer
I think
camps,
it's pretty
but
much. I think it's going to hold steady at just where it is, which is low.
I think it'll decline. I think a lot of just adults are afraid to teach children about it, partly because they're afraid of terrorism stuff on a vague level. I mean,
I worry more about the RC planes and the RC cars than the rockets.
I wouldn't give a kid an RC plane or maybe an RC car.
a plastic one.
Yeah.
Not a real one. Anyway, but yeah, I guess model rocketry. It's I guess it was sort of it's like when we were kids, it was sort of big. It wasn't huge, but it was always sort of there.
Well, I remember I used to go to local hobby shops and they'd have just like
Every hobby
multiple
shop.
aisles of them.
Every hobby shop has.
And
them.
Toys R Us had them when I was a kid.
Yep, sure did.
I haven't been to a Toys R Us in a while. I feel like I should go and see if they have model rockets.
I even think
or
you
not.
can find them at craft stores too. Like not good ones.
I
but-
wonder if you still can.
Yeah, I've
I'm
seen them in a
curious.
craft store kind of recently-ish. But yeah, it's sort of like this thing. It was always sort of there, but it didn't have any staying power, And I just happened to go to a weird nerd science camp where they had a rocket hut.
Yep, I happen to live next to Selfridge Air National Guard Base, and they had programs where they teach kids about military and science and space stuff. So we'd make a lot of rockets there.
Yeah, but I mean that was pretty much it. It was like and then once you're out of I don't know a single person who did it on their own outside of a official regulated setting.
See, I did a lot,
Mhm.
but it was never
Well,
scientific.
you just built them at home and set them
I'd
off
build
in
them
the
at
park.
home, and then I had all the equipment. Me and my brother would go to a park, big football field or something, and we'd launch them and lose them, and that'd be the end of it.
All righty.
As they flew off over the horizon. Sometimes you see the parachute deploy, and they'd catch a headwind and just shh.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Anyway, those are good days, and they're probably gone now.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geeknights is not one, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.